The goal of this video is to outline how to use the online comics creator Pixton to make simple tasks in a graphic representation for practicing language in class and for homework. We're going to make a Cambridge open close task that looks a little bit like this one, but the tool can be used to make other tasks as well, and we'll look at a few examples at the end. A Cambridge use of English open close task is a short text with 8 missing words, no multiple choice options. So first you'll need a text. You can use one of the texts from the course books and type it out yourself, or you can just do a simple Google search and try and find a sample online. I've found one here at english-grammar.at. They've got hundreds of different examples you can choose from. And Cambridge use a socio-cognitive approach to test design, which involves observation of dynamic interaction between person, or in the case of comics, characters, and behavior and environment. So try to choose a text that involves real-world situations and interactions, although the tool is dynamic enough to depict almost any situation. And for this demonstration, I've chosen a task about how transport has changed, and when we've made this comic finally, this open-close task will look a bit like this. Okay? So when you go to pixton.com, log in with the school's paid account, and you'll come to the main screen that looks like this. There's a huge amount of functionality with Pixton, lots of different things you can do, incorporating the comics into widened lesson plans, and there's loads of templates to use. So we're just going to take one direction today, and we're going to learn how to make a simple open-close task first. So click on the 3-line main menu button up here, and in the drop-down menu in the comics section, click Add, the Add button, to start to create a comic from scratch. There are lots of pre-made templates, as I said, and we're going to choose Create From Template, but we're going to scroll down to the bottom and click Create From Scratch. We need maximum control for our requirements for this project, so I'm going to click Graphic Novel over here, and then Advanced option over here to create each panel with maximum control. Okay, now when the creator loads, first we're going to have a look at the open-close text. This is my text, and I've identified about 4 different scenes that I can depict graphically. And the first section mentions traffic and people complaining about it. So I'm going to go back to Pixton, and in my comic editor here, I'm going to first choose a background. I already know it's about traffic and people complaining about it, so in the keyword section down here, I can type traffic and see what options they have for me. I'm going to choose one of these scenes, and it'll pop up in my first comic panel. Now, because we've chosen the full functionality model here, I can control lots of different things about this comic, and it does take a little bit of practice. But because I know I'm going to have text in it, and quite a bit of text, I'm going to increase the size of the panel just by dragging down the option here in this little arrow. And I can also click on the picture itself and the image, and I can move it around. And I know I want a street scene with a little bit of space on the side. Okay? Now I'm going to add the first part of my text that I've identified. If I click this box up here, Add Text, I get a little text box, and I'm going to copy and paste the first part of my open close into it. And because the text is quite long, it's going to put it into a caption box at the bottom down here. And you'll see also that under the comic down here, and under the box, I have lots of different options. And if I click empty space, the options change, and if I select what I want, the options change again. I'm going to change the font in my text here just to make it a bit clearer, and I've decided that Pixton 17 is probably the clearest. Other formatting options include just checking that there are spaces where your open-close questions need to be, where the students need to fill in those missing words. Now, mirroring my socio-cognitive approach, I need a character who's going to complain about the traffic, mirroring the interactions in the text. So again, if I click empty space over here and get some different options back, and I can click Add Character. I have a table, a set of characters I've used before, my characters, but I just want a generic one this time. So I'm going to click on Preset Characters at the top. I know that the text mentions grandparents, so if I enter Grandpa, in the keywords box, it'll give me anything that matches, and I'm going to choose this guy over here. Now you can see that the text box here has added a little tail to indicate that Grandpa's speaking, and I don't want that. So if I just click it once, it'll add a little plus symbol here and a little icon over his mouth. If I click that, it will disconnect it from him speaking. Now I want my character angrily complaining on the side of the road. So if I click on him once and get a blue box around him, I can then drag him to where I want, and I can also use these options to resize him because he's a bit big there on the side of the road. Okay. Finally, I want him to be complaining about the traffic, as in the text. So if I double click on him, it'll bring up some more options, these green buttons down here, and handily, I have some preset poses when I click on this option right here. Again, in the keywords box down here, I can type something that I'm looking for. And if I enter angry down here, we'll get a few different options, and I've decided that this one will be the most suitable. There are lots more options to play around with in Pixton, such as changing the color of almost anything in the panel, changing the facial expression, all kinds of things. But let's move on to the second panel for now. I've identified 4 different situations from my open close text, and just before I start a new panel, it's going to ask me if I want to name my new character and save him in my characters, but I don't have to. I'll just click that X here. So I've identified 4 situations, and I'm going to make 4 different panels. But Pixton assumes that you're going to continue a single narrative from one panel to the next, so it copies over the text and the images from the panel before. But I actually want 4 different things, so I'm going to click each element once, and then hit delete on the keyboard, and it should get rid of everything, including the text. And I'm left with a new blank panel. First, I'm going to insert my text again by clicking the Add Text button, and then copying and pasting the next part of the text I've identified in. And then I'm going to double check the formatting again, that the space is okay down here for the answers of the questions. And then I'm going to choose a suitable background. I'm going to click an empty space over here, and I'll get my yellow buttons back. When I click background, I'm just going to enter car in the keywords, and I get so many different options. You can play around and see what looks best, but I found that you don't need to be too accurate. It is a cartoon after all, and there's a phenomenon in cartoons called closure, which means that we observe the parts, but we perceive the whole. Hence, in this panel, I don't really need to find an old-looking car in an old situation, which perfectly matches what it says in the text down here. I know it mentions that, but I'm just going to choose one I think will work and use this one right here. I can play around with the position and size of everything again, and then when I think I'm happy with it, I can click an empty space, click on Add Character, and if I click on Preset Characters and My Characters this time, I should have the same character from panel number 1. Similar to the first panel, I'm going to disconnect the speech bubble from him, and then I'm going to move him around and resize him. He's a little bit small now because we've zoomed in a little bit. And also, I want him to do an action that mirrors what it says in the text, walking in front of the car with a red flag. So again, if I double click on him, I'll get the option of different preset poses down here. And in the keywords section, I'm just going to write walk. Now, I want him walking with purpose, so I'm going to choose this marching option here. But he's actually facing the wrong way. So if I click this little green button down here, it will flip horizontal and he'll be marching in the right direction. Now he also needs a red flag, because that's what it says in the text. So again, if I click an empty space, go back to my yellow buttons, this one in the middle here says add prop. If I click on that, and in the keywords type flag, we'll see what they've got. This one over here looks like it'll be suitable, so I'm going to resize it, move it into the right position, and I'm going to then click an empty space, click back on it, maybe double click on it. No, it's not going to let me flip it horizontally unless I click these 3 buttons down here to get some more advanced options. So that'll work for me. Move it roughly into position so it's in his hand. And remember, the text says that the flag is red. So I've got this palette icon on the left over here. If I click that, I get 1 or 2 options down here, possibly more depending on the type of prop you use, because in this one it has 2 colors, a black handle and a blue flag part. If I click number 1, choose something nice and red, then we can change the color of the flag part there. So I'm happy with that panel, and I'm going to move on to panel 3. Now I know the next part of my text mentions something about bananas, products from South America, radios from Japan, and tea from China. So first I'm going to copy and paste in the text I want. I do this once again by selecting Add Text, and then copying and pasting the text I want, and checking the formatting is right, and the gaps are there. You can number those gaps as well if you want to do that for in-class activities. Then I'm going to click in empty space, add background, and this time I'm just going to type bananas, just to see what happens. And oh look, we have bananas on display. Now in this background, there's probably too many bananas and no radios from Japan and no tea from China. So I want to be able to control almost in greater detail what's going on in the back here. So if I click on the background, and then I click these three little dots in the blue icon down here, that's going to do something called break apart the prop set. And that's going to give me greater control over every element of what's going on in the background. It's going to break apart all the different images and icons that are in there. If I click on the background again, and then I select one that I want to maybe get rid of or move, it'll put a single blue box around it, and then I can just press delete and it'll disappear. I do the same for this one right here and delete that. I now have a little bit more shelf space for the products that I want. If I want some tea from China and some radios from Japan, I can click Add Prop, type tea into the text box, found an error there, and then choose the teapot over here. And remember, because of closure, I don't really need to show that it's tea from Japan. It says that in the text down here, and the reader's brain fills in the gaps for you. If I want more than one teapot, I right-click it, click Duplicate, have another one, move that into place, and then I'll do the same thing again. And again, if I want a radio, I'm going to click in empty space, select the Add Prop section here, and in the keywords, type radio. This one looks like a good enough product, and I'm going to do the same thing again, put a couple of options in there, and again we don't need to really show that it's from Japan. The reader's brain will fill in the missing details for us. If we want to add my grandpa again, we can click in empty space, add character, and just for continuity we'll put him back in there, move him into the shop. I'll disconnect the speech bubble from him, click on that icon right there, and then I might just change his pose. Now this time I don't want to pre-select one of the poses that are already included in the program. I just want to move his arm. So if I hover my cursor over his arm and it highlights like that, I can just lift it out a bit and make him point at the items on sale. Also, if I click on his hand and then leave my finger pressed down on the left button, I've got a range of different pictures that I can choose from and different options for his hand there. I'll finish my final panel in much the same way. I'll add a new panel down there and then delete all the sections I don't need. When I've got my blank final panel, I'm going to add text in the same way, copy and paste it in, check the formatting, click in empty space once again, add a background, and this time it's about shipping all over the world. So if I type in shipping, I get this nice generic shipping container image right here. I'll add Grandpa again for continuity, move him around, and then I'll probably add one more character that he can talk to about the shipping process. Remove the speech bubble connection there, and this time I'm going to add somebody who looks like they're at work, and I'm going to change their position so that they are sitting down. Double click to get these options at the bottom, then type sitting in the keywords. And I'm also going to add one prop, just a box, to add a little bit of context, something that they can talk about. Okay, now I think I'm all done. And that's my 4-panel open close. I'm going to click Save and Continue down here at the bottom. And then there's a variety of options after you've added a title to enable you to share it with your students. And if I do, it looks pretty good. If I scroll down here at the bottom, you can download it, you can email it. If you email it like this, you can get a shareable link, and then you can share that on any kind of group you've set up with your students, such as WhatsApp, or just email it to them. That could be for homework. You can even download it and print it and hand it out in class. Okay, thanks.